Hello there, YouTube. I am Necrostevo. Thank you for joining me here. In the start of a new year, a new league, and the Victorian shadows shall rise again. But first, let me give you some updates on where we are. First off, the first league of this year shall be the PPL NX. That is fun to say, I have to say. Let me give you all the quick breakdown on how this league is going to work because it is quite different. And I am very excited for the possibilities of this league drafting schedule. This league is going to be split up into 3 separate stages. That's right, you have stage 1, stage 2, and then playoffs. Playoffs are determined by those coaches who are at the top of their groups at the end of each stage. There's going to be 10 groups of 6 coaches each, and the draft pools will have those groups all randomly assigned against each other. So for stage 1, mid-tier, no Terra, we fight it out. That is one draft. Stage 2, then with stage 2, completely different draft pool, low tier Terra allowed. And then stage 3, which is playoffs, will be those top coaches from each of those divisions. So we will see what we can do. First off though, let's just start with the first stage, because that is the draft pool that we have already committed ourselves to. Now for this stage, I had first pick. That was very cool. With this being no Terra and first pick overall, I decided to make my first pick Weavile. It was one of the fastest things on the board, and it always aligns very nicely with my get something that can hit fast and dark. And I love doing that. So here we picked up Weavile for the first pick. Of course, first pick means there's going to be quite a long time before it gets back to me. That means that there's going to be a lot of choices and things falling off the board before it gets back. Things that pair well with Weavile are generally things that can either bring it in off of U-turn and Volt Switch, or things that love having other Pokemon like bulky Psychics or bulky Grass types, things like that removed from the field. Cue our second choice, Thundurus Therian. Thundurus Therian is one legendary that I have several of, and on top of that, Thundurus Therian has a great speed tier being at 101 speed, and now we have Weavile who is immune to Psychic type moves, and Thundurus Therian who with the Volt Absorb ability is immune to Electric, and it's a flying type so it's immune to ground. So not only are we going to do what my friend Spoonie suggested and look for whatever Pokemon fit into a little bit more of like an emo
because tonight will be the night that I will fall for you over again. Don't make me change my mind.
Kind of like a Chiobunin type feel here, but we just want darker, cool mons here. So I'm going for a certain aesthetic with my pick. I want edgy, I want cool, I want powerful. So we have Weavile, who is literally holding blades, and Thundurus with the cool rocker hair. Our third pick on that wheel pick to head it back in the other direction was Hatterene. Hatterene is one of the few fairies besides maybe Grimmsnarl that would fit into the edgy, I'm so special, I'm so cool aesthetic here. At the complete opposite end of the speed spectrum, but provides a very nice ability in magic bounce and a little bit of roll compression because Hatterene can also function as a Trick Room setter and sweeper. So this is my first time actually drafting Hatterene, so I look forward to using it. Once it got back to me, I had to completely retool my draft plan because all of my picks and my backup picks were sniped. And so often I was the one holding up the draft because I would be at work or I would be asleep and not realizing that it had gotten back to me. So I tried to adjust for that and leave backup picks, but they did not help. They don't help when you get sniped that hard. This is not like Fortnite there. You can't just get sniped hard and build a whole new house. You get sniped hard and you have to figure out your whole game plan again. It's absolutely ridiculous. Our fourth pick overall is Skarmory, one of the edgiest birds that you can pick. I selected Skarmory to give me a steel type that paired well with Hatterene, and I also thought that it paired well with Thundurus because of Thundurus's immunity to electric moves. I wanted a flying type that could roost. That was very important to me. And also Skarmory allows me to have a more specific defensive profile while not being setup fodder. Skarmory can whirlwind things out. It can use Rocky Helmet with impunity, and it gets Roost and Iron Defense alongside Body Press. So a lot of options there to utilize Skarmory. It's also literally made of swords. And if that's not edgy, I don't know what is. Our next pick was one that I wanted to do earlier, but I thought it was more important to secure Weavile, Thundurus, and Hatterene. And our next pick is Zoroark Hisui. I don't have to say a lot about Zoroark's aesthetic and how it fits into the emo thing that we're going for here. But Zoroark's typing paired with the immunities that we have thus far. Every Pokemon that we've drafted has at least one immunity. And Zoroark also has 2 immunities and the illusion ability. For those of you who are not apprised, if Zoroark is in battle, it will be disguised as the last Pokemon that you have on your team. So if I put my Skarmory in the 6th slot and Zoroark is in the 1st slot, when I send out Zoroark, it'll look like Skarmory to my opponent. If I've kept entry hazards and things like that off the field, and if their HP levels are at similar amounts, then the opponent will have to guess, is that really Zoroark or is it the other Pokemon? And while Team Preview makes that mind game a little bit easier to toy with, there is no denying the overlap in moves here. So for example, Zoroark also gets Swords Dance. Zoroark also can use moves like Grass Knot and Shadow Ball and Shadow Sneak. And with its wide move pool coupled with the ability to use moves that are similar and great coverage and amazing speed tier, I am really expecting to do some real work with that hair this season. Now after Zoroark, we decided to pick up Araquanid and Bramblegast. Now I really wanted to complete a Fairy Dragon Steel type deal, but I got sniped on the few dragon types that I wanted, and the ones that were remaining really did not fit into the edgy aesthetic. They were all soft, just really soft dragons. And I love Goodra, by the way. That is one of my favorite pseudo-legendary Pokemon. But I could not draft it onto this team because it was not edgy enough. And yeah, a lot of the other more edgy dragons weren't available because dragon types are so good they would count as top tier threats, so they just weren't available to be picked. Or they were just too soft. So we decided to forego the dragon and go ahead and start working on that water, grass, fire type triad here. So Araquanid and Bramblegast together, once again, we have immunities and we have utility. Bramblegast is our first and, spoilers, only rapid spinner for the team. And it's a rapid spinner that can really punish in multiple ways, whereas Araquanid can function very flexibly between offense, defense, physical, or special, and with its head literally in a bubble.
She came down in a bubble, dog.
I don't, that's like having your head in a cloud, you know, thinking that you're really, really special.
And what was her sister? A princess! The Wicked Witch of the East!
Type of deal. I love it. There's a lot that, like, you can't even tell when Araquanid is crying because his head is always surrounded by water. It's like when I was a kid and outside and it's like, no, it's raining, I'm not crying. And they'd be like, Necro, you're in Texas. It's like 100 degrees outside. It hasn't rained in days. And I'm like, crazy, this rain outside. Anyways, that's why I went with Araquanid and Bramblegast next. After that, I did decide that I needed a steel type that was a little bit more flexible than Skarmory. I kind of played around with the next 2 picks quite a lot because while I do have Hatterene and Skarmory, I have a lot of offense to the team, but the team is very frail. I've done a good job of keeping the base stat total of the team above 500 for the most part, but I think my average HP stat for the team was something like 60 or something like that at this point, just because of the low HP stat values for all my Pokemon. So with that, our next few picks are just some beefy boys, just absolutely ripped, shredded, torn. What other words do we use to describe? Just real strong. The guys at the club who are just like maximum leather daddy type deals. Anyways, Copperaja and Rhyperior have joined this squad. Copperaja, of course, gives me a secondary steel type that is much more offensively oriented. Still very slow, which wasn't great, but it also gives me a secondary way to set up stealth rocks. Copperaja also gets a lot of coverage moves that people tend to forget about, and that makes it a lot easier to slot in on teams. Now, Rhyperior, I really did enjoy alongside Hatterene. Not only does Rhyperior get the solid rock ability, actually that pairs well with Thunderous's hair, that's some hard rock right there, let me tell you, but also with its immunities to electric type moves, that gives me another way to utilize Araquanid's weaknesses here too, alongside Skarmory. So I am alleviating the setup of entry hazards that Skarmory has to do, and also getting in some very, very much needed bulk to the overall squad. And that is bulk that will not be setup fodder, which I am really excited about. I really learned about that with Clodsire and this generation of battling. It is very easy to get set up on, and so I want to be able to punish those options wherever I can. We are almost to the end of the draft here. You can see that we only have 3 picks left. Now, I could have picked 2 things and then gone for a mascot pick. A lot of coaches did. We were allowed to pick, if something was not fully evolved and not on the board, we could draft it for free as long as we had a team slot. And so I was very close to drafting a few things just to maybe amp up the morale of the team or mess with some of the other coaches. But we aren't going to talk about that yet. Our next 2 picks are Toxicroak and Staraptor. That's right, even more immunities. And Staraptor's hair alongside Toxicroak's overall demeanor are perfect for the emo aesthetic of this team. For those of you who don't know, that Japanese concept earlier that I mentioned is really talking about how that middle school syndrome of just like, yes, I see everything, I'm so powerful, and no one understands. And I really wanted to have a team with an aesthetic that matched up with that. So how did Toxicroak and Staraptor fit into what we have so far? First off, similarly to Dark Spam, I love Bird Spam. You will have seen me do it with Dodrio. Last season I did it with Articuno, and now we have Staraptor, Skarmory, and to a lesser extent Thundurus. But flying types are very fun to spam attacks with. As many Poketubers say, hit where they cannot defend, and there are no immunities to flying type moves. There are also just generally no immunities to birds. There's a tree outside of my house, and the tree is on my neighbor's land, but the branches extend over my driveway. And if I park underneath the tree for whatever reason, birds will immediately use that as their personal latrine. So not only have I learned to not park underneath a tree, here we have Staraptor, who has taught me to weaponize that against other players. Toxicroak, in addition to providing me a much needed grounded poison type, has a very interesting offensive profile and speed stat. It can function defensively or offensively very easily. And in addition to getting the grounded poison type, with its ability Dry Skin, I can be immune to water type moves. So I do see that coming in handy this season, even though I don't really have that many things weak to water. Like I have Rhyperior, but between Araquanid and Toxicroak, it's really going to allow me the ability to dissuade the bulky water types that every draft tends to pick up. Finally, the last pick of season or rather, I guess Season NX Stage number 1 is Typhlosion. I wanted a fire type here or I wanted a dragon type here. And I couldn't get a fire dragon type because Reshiram was banned. I don't understand. It's not a top tier Pokemon. Like why? Oh, it's Ubers. It's a tippy top tier Pokemon. I understand. Yes. So we got Typhlosion. Typhlosion is a fire type that is going to be immune to fire type moves with Flash Fire and shares the same speed stat as Staraptor. So I get to play a little bit of prep games with not only the various speed stats here. So Typhlosion, Staraptor are both base 100 speed. Thundurus Therian is base 101. And then Zoroark Hisui is 110 and Weavile is 125. So with the speed stats stacked up like this, it really forces my opponents to go max speed for a lot of different things if they want to outspeed me. And I'm not forced to go max speed. I could just go Adamant or Modest and take advantage of the extra 10% damage that I'm pumping out. But Typhlosion here just really provides me with a solid fire type offensive Pokemon. I don't see it coming to all 5 of the battles. I do see it coming to at least 2 or 3 because there are going to be those teams to where a Choice Scarf, Typhlosion, or maybe even Choice Specs, depending on speed tiers, will be able to blow through a lot of the opposition. So once again, we have our horrible horde of just straight up emo sickos here. That is very weird. I don't think I've ever used the word sickos before, but it kind of rolls off the tongue. Interestingly. Whoa. Did you guys hear that? That was my stomach. I hunger for these battles, and I hope you all do too. Now, the way that the upload schedules will be for this season of PPL NX is that each division, and there are 4 divisions, one for Lele, Bulu, and also Coco and Plow. No, wait, that's the Oricorio form. But yes, each of the Guardians from Alola have their own division, and each of those have their own coaches. So we're in the Lele division, and so our first opponent is going to be Razor and the Galaxy Brain Golysopods. Razor is a coach that we have not fought before, and actually, I believe every coach we're going up against are coaches we have not fought before. So this is going to be a very exciting stage 1 for us. Just getting to meet some new coaches and hopefully find a few new victims along the way. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't expect the videos this season to be quite so long in the uploads of the beginning of the video. And that's just because that's where we are and how we're creating it. And I hope you all enjoy the battle uploads because I enjoy doing these for you all and for myself. So do take care and look forward to the first upload on February the 17th, which I believe is tomorrow as of this video going up. I hope you all have a great day, a great night, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye and good night.